and they do it.
Hello, everybody. This is Elijah Keating from WisdomSeekers.net. And we are a wonderful group of readers. Please go check us out. You'll find that we have just about everything you want. And if we don't have it, ask, because we've got a lot of knowledge behind us. And one of my best readers, Elizabeth, she does one of the things I really, really enjoy is spirit readings. And I buy them for gifts for family and friends. So this is Elizabeth. Elizabeth, say hello.
Hey,
And I know,
everybody.
and she's the reason I was laughing so hard when we came on.
Is she the reason and not the faux pas you just made like 2 minutes ago?
Yeah, I did make a faux pas. I had it on the wrong place. I had it on my personal page rather than on Wisdom Seekers. Go figure, right? It's
Yeah, we
nothing
all
to
took
do
that
with the
personally.
fact that I was up early for 11 o'clock
No, not even a little bit.
and didn't get a nap. So anyhow, today's subject, I believe, is Atlantis.
Yeah, we said we were going to talk about that for sure.
And just so you know, there will be interruptions every couple of minutes because Elizabeth has a new puppy, and his name is Marshall Heck, and he
Yep.
gets into heck all the time. So
Yes, he does.
once in a while, you can expect
Puppy face.
Me to yell,
don't do that.
don't do that. Get that out of your mouth. Don't touch that. If you break that, I'll kill you.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So just expect interruptions.
Don't turn on the computer.
Don't turn it on. Don't turn it off.
First off, we have
Hi, Leticia.
Leticia Espinosa Gurera saying hello.
And
Lakshmi saying hi.
and Aparna.
Hey, guys.
And other people who are watching and haven't said anything, they say hello, I'm assuming. Or thinking it. Anyways.
Or laughing at us.
Or laughing at us.
Because we're hilarious.
All of the above.
I think we're hilarious. But that's just me. But I think everything I do is funny.
I think it's funny sometimes, too.
I know. So, and remember, you can ask questions anytime you feel like. But before I do this, I just have to do a little payback before we get into this.
Before you pay me back for hurt fingers. Sorry, pending. Diane Osborne says hi.
Hi, Diane.
All right.
So the story is.
Marshall, get down.
See, I told you so. The story is, we were just at the grocery store, and my darling daughter that you can hear disemboweled in the back, voice in the background, she decided she was going to stay in the car and roll up the windows, which are automatic windows, and turn on the air conditioning. But she forgot to look to see if all the windows were clear. And she got my fingers caught in them. I yelled loudly.
With a shit! At the end of that yell.
Anyhow,
Run, Elle, run!
And then I didn't say another thing, because if I did, I'd be yelling really loud. And she just kept closing it more.
She gave me good glare.
Anyhow, finally she quit, and it's just bruised. It's not broken.
I apologized.
But I told her I was going to pay her back for the rest of her life.
And she warned me that I'd never be living this down. So
yeah, she did a lot of times.
Lakshmi said, "Oh my God, yeah, I'm a bad daughter."
Anyhow, that's out of the way. I just had to, like I said, I just had to do a little payback. And now, Elizabeth, what do you know about Atlantis? Do you have memories of Atlantis, or?
I actually don't have memories of Atlantis. I'm one of those rare people that, kind of, I don't know, just don't connect to it. I do have a lot of, more worldly knowledge of it, you would say.
So like in Plato, studying Plato and things like that?
Yeah, things like that. It's not really more like abnormal archaeology and theories and things like that. Now, that being said, I do have one memory that is sort of maybe along those lines, but I don't know if it's like the Atlantis or if it was just because we have different names for that era in time. Atlantis is just the most popular one now, but we've always known that there was a civilization before our history. So, like,
theories that it actually wasn't just one big cataclysm, a series of maybe three over a couple, 400 years.
yeah, absolutely. And then there's also the theory that there was a nuclear war at that time, or a nuclear type war.
They do have. I think it's in the Sahara Desert. There's an area that is just pure glass that is like 9,000 years old.
Yeah.
That would have been created by a nuclear cataclysm, but it would have been crystal cataclysm, not nuclear.
Yeah, there's you also have like these places around the world where like really strange deaths happen that seem to be like a residue from a very, very ancient weapon at the time. Well, one, I'm trying to remember where it was. I think it's in northern Soviet Union, where these explorers went and they died mysteriously, aging really quickly, and almost became mummified in one night. So you have these unexplained events that happen, and of course, modern science, we wish to rationalize everything and fit it into our paradigm, but not everything fits. So there's these cities under the ocean that are giant, with these giant steps. No man could like walk up.
Like the one in close to Japan.
Yeah, and we try to rationalize that. We used to have so like the Stonehenge and Meriwether stones and those Neolithic sites. We have those in America, but because our paradigm in archaeology doesn't accept that, they've been labeled as hoaxes, or they've been torn down, or there's very few of them left because of that. So, we really have to be careful of the paradigms in science that we set up. Science, it's really strange, science. Science criticizes people for not believing what they believe, and then criticizes them for not accepting their belief, and then criticizes them for not being open-minded, and yet are very narrow-minded. It's very conflicting. And that's not all scientists, of course. But, we get into this, like for how many years do we believe that Columbus was the first to discover America? Unrealistic.
They still teach that in school, don't they?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In 1862, Columbus sailed the Goshen Blue, or something like that. I might have got the year wrong. Yeah.
That's the only reason I know. It's because of that song.
Yeah. And, it's we know that that's not true. The Vikings were here. The Native Americans were here. As much as we say they're native, they were not native. They migrated here. As well.
The natives from the East Coast have European genetics.
Yes, they crossed the ice. In my understanding of ancient history, they crossed the ice bridges,
Bering Strait,
right, and made their way into the Americas. Realistically, no one is native to where they're from. I mean, as far as humanity goes, our origin is assumed, but yet not proven. And even if it is proven, we all migrated from that origin. We
And we were all
migrated to
one
Europe. Yeah.
Oh, there's you
So,
better check
yes.
what he's doing.
Sit down. Calm down. Oh, you're back.
Okay, he's not actually in frame with you two. Oh no, I lied.
He was. He
Hi,
was.
Marshall.
Anyhow, yeah, a lot of people, scientists even suggest that people originated from the Garden of Eden, which is
Yes.
supposed to be in Iraq, is it? Iraq?
Well, yeah, in the Middle East at some point.
Yeah.
Which, if you look at the story of the Garden of Eden, which is one that I'm actually very familiar with, the they said in the story, in I don't know, they talk about the flaming swords that were set up to keep men from re-entering the Garden of Eden. Well, if you look at that area, it's nothing but war all the time,
Constantly.
constantly war.
Old energy.
Right, and that keeps us from actually really being able to explore that area and find, geologically, the Garden of Eden, which I think a couple of men, and I forget their names. Oh, what's their names?
Somebody called Michael Abner.
Yeah,
Was that one of the names?
it might have been. They actually did the geological,
Yeah.
computer analyst and found some areas that they believe are allegedly the Garden of Eden, but there's no way that we can get there because of all the war and governments and conflict that goes on. So those swords are still spinning today.
So some people suggest that, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Some people suggest that they were actually vortexes from alternative, not realities, but
Yeah.
areas. So that's how people would travel pre-history. They'd travel by the vortexes. And that's supposed to be a really powerful one in that area.
Yeah, there's some minute evidence of that in archaeology and in energy. Like I said, we have these areas that things happen that are just no scientific way as of yet to explain them.
Impossible.
Yeah. Mandy said something about pointy ears. What am I missing?
She's saying, I got this.
Okay.
She's saying, I watched a show on history about Atlantis. It's been said if you have Rh negative blood, you could be a descendant of Atlantis. There were quite a few characters of people. It was very interesting. Another characteristic was slightly pointed ears.
That would be my middle daughter, Jen. She had slightly pointed ears.
Sadie puts in, Atlantis is so very intriguing. I believe I have a past life there.
Or more. It lasted quite a few centuries.
Yeah, I believe a lot of people do. As far as the pointy ears, I have a theory about that from another civilization that we won't get into.
You mean
But yeah, and then also, you talk about extra fingers and double rows of teeth as being a genetic marker of a different species that once walked the earth.
Those are more likely fairy rather than Atlantean.
Down. Excuse me, I apologize.
Right, I warned everybody.
Yeah, so so we believe like the Nephilim, the giants, the descendants of angels had these markers of double teeth and extra fingers, and so that comes out in people sometimes, almost like almost like shark-like. So you will see that on occasion. Then there's the pointed ears and the sharper teeth which I believe is more um, elfling than Atlantean. I'm not sure what the genetic markers of an Atlantean would be,
Oh, okay.
Given my knowledge of the history. I would think maybe not pointed ears, but more open ears at the top.
Big
So
ones?
yeah, well, not big. So say. Oh, okay. So say like more at the top, rounded and squared out like this. I don't know if you can. No, you can't see that. Oh well. But like squared out, more fanned out than pointed,
More
and
wing-
less round.
Wing shaped, Dale says.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Wing shape would be a marker, and show off. So
Your baby's up at it again.
I see him. I'm ignoring him. But
Hello, Marsha.
we talk about lost civilizations. Atlantis is one in history. I think Anunnaki comes up a lot. The Anunnaki is a civilization that comes up a lot.
Lemurian.
Lemurian, yeah. So there are certain mysticisms, I think, that believe that we're actually in the ninth creation. We're not in the first creation. And so, there's that to consider. That history is older than we say it is.
I think that might be right, because I do believe this time around we're actually trying to move into a new dimension with our physical bodies, which has never been tried before. And that would be the last time around that we would do something like that.
Yeah.
Chantel says hi to your puppy.
He says hi back. He's frustrated right now because he's trapped in here with me. So about the pointy ears, who was it who said that? I lost that comment.
Cassie Deckert. She goes, "Ooh, I'm so curious about pointy ears. My son has elf ears."
I think we'll do that on another live stream because people are interested in the Fae and things like that.
Watch his interest. Yeah, watch his interest. If he's interested in challenging sports, I would say that he has the genetic markers of the elf or the Sidhe or Sith or whatever you call them, whatever you choose to call them. So
it's pronounced she.
She, thank you. So, but yeah, so watch for that because of that. Yeah, they tend to really like challenging, especially single competition sports where they're challenging themselves, almost dualistic. Is a genetic trait of that, in my opinion. I'm not a geneticist, but in my opinion, that's my observation.
So the new sport with the lightsabers would probably be one that they would.
Absolutely, I think sometimes they invent those sports just to satisfy that drive, and because you get all these new, new sports that come up, and it's to meet that need for a challenge.
And the RPGs, or role-playing games, where they all do fantasy, that would make so much sense that would attract them. And a lot of the Hollywood types are really attracted to RPGs.
Yeah.
Well, I guess because they spend hours between shots and stuff.
There are actually quite a surprising handful of actors, like the last actor who played Daredevil. He's never played D&D until he was invited to be a guest on at a table somewhere. Sorry.
That's her passion.
Yeah, role-playing games, it meets that mental challenge of creation. Uh, these are people that are very strategic minded. Um, I honestly think they're more Atlantean than elf because of the mental, the mental grueling push. And like I worry because my son, well, you're in your L hours, without sleep, pushing for that mental challenge of creating these mazes and traps and graphic backstories so the characters are so real to meet um, that mental need to drive the mind. Yeah. So when you talk about, say, Atlantis, what we do know, we do believe or theorize it was an advanced civilization. They had advanced technology. This is not far from reality. When you look at Egypt had things like batteries. They had things like water-powered drills. They were scientifically becoming very advanced. So when you look back at Atlantis, very plausible that they had flying, airships, and they had weapons of mass destruction that, along with, credible, beneficial scientific medical breakthroughs. We talk about the power of crystals. One of my theories is they tapped into that crystal power.
I actually have memories of that. I worked with that a lot when I was back then.
She actually has old short stories written out about her memories of the time in Atlantis.
So this the Michael Hedges crystal skull is reputed to have come from that time.
Yeah. Yes.
I've actually been 2 feet away from it.
Oh, cool.
And its aura was, you could feel his aura. I mean, physically feel his aura this far away from its body. It filled the whole room, but physically touching it, it was kind of cool. So,
well, we know factually that clear quartz crystal, if you're unfamiliar, has created in us a time shortage, actually, when we put it into use. For some reason, and I'm not sure why. But first off, when we discovered that the quartz could run watches at perfect time, so we made these quartz watches. And then for some reason, instead of giving us more time, that has made time shorten for us and speed up. And I honestly think it's tapping into all that crystal network.
There's a lot of crystals were basically lost at the bottom of the ocean during this time. My memories. These are memories. But in Alabama, not Alabama, Arkansas, where they have all the crystals, they have crystals that are like three tons, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Those are the crystals that were used in Atlantis. I mean, those size crystals were used in Atlantis.
Yeah, I actually went up there when I was younger and less old and needy. Um, we actually took the boys up there to mine for crystals, and we spent a couple of days out there digging in the dirt and the heat. And it was the stupidest thing I've ever done, but I mean, I really enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie, but I mean, oh my God, if I did it today, I would be out there dead. you know, so there's like just buckets of dirt and sifting through it, and we actually found some really nice pieces. Um, it was a lot of fun, but I wouldn't do it right now at this age. My knees wouldn't let me. I
No,
would cry. Arkansas is a beautiful place. Um, it really, God, I hate to advertise it because I hate to send people there because it's so pristine, and so pure, and you just get this peaceful energy that you just don't get in a lot of places. And so, yeah, I can see the crystals from Arkansas being Atlantean of origin.
and that might be why it's so still in the States. It's still rather pristine. Might be that the energy. There might be that the energy is still tied into that era, and it might. I do know there were some in that area on the mountaintops. There were some temples.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know that when the Atlantis started to fall, they took a few of these temples and folded them away in time, so there was no time. So it might be that there is a timeless temple sort of
Yeah, that's
in that area.
that's what I worry about all the quartz crystals we use for timepieces. That we're tapping back into that energy of time manipulation, which we really don't need to do. Uh, Not that I think clear quartz crystals, as far as timepieces, they're some of the best. I mean, if you're lucky enough to own a quartz watch, of course, hold on to it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we have noticed a differential in time that used to be in the time that is now, and how we perceive time since we've started using quartz crystals to keep time. And so, there is a working basis of theory that they could have done that if they had large enough pieces of clear quartz crystal.
Oh, yeah, they could. I mean, they sent messages to quartz
Yeah.
crystals, like we use our telephones nowadays.
Oh, like we used to use in I don't know if anybody had one of these, but the old illegal scanners that you used to monitor. I'm not saying I ever owned one of those. Uh, they use crystals to tap into the radio frequencies, and you would have to watch. What were you gonna say?
They also use them in computers
Cassie,
because they store memory
better than anything
better
else.
than anything, and they help run the computers better than most
Yes.
other technology.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
And that's why scullies have become so important nowadays to certain groups of people, because they do act like old time computers.
Yeah.
And when one scully meets another scully, they pass on the information.
Yeah.
But that
And then,
Kathy Becker said that too.
yeah, we're finding in archaeology things that are making us question. Like, I am not going to say this right. Gobe Tech is the new one that they found. Beautiful archaeological discovery. Was actually discovered by a person of that area, a farmer or a herder in that area. Just these large pillars with carvings on them that, thousands of years older than any of the oldest known structures that we found. And every time we think we have the date for human civilization, We find things that push it further back. So when you talk about the theory of Atlantis, and you talk about the theory of lost civilizations and the idea that there could have been a civilization before us, I believe it's reasonably and very plausible.
Well, Lemuria was supposed to be pre-Atlantis, overlapping.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Lemuria has become such a fable that it's more of a lost memory than a fable, even.
Yeah. Well, it's like, what's the beginning of the movie Lord of the Rings? Myth becomes legend, and legend becomes, story, and then we lose the history of it. This really happens. It happens to us today. I mean, we do this to ourselves today when we destroy history. When we, they talk about down here. I know that y'all heard about this. Is the destruction of the Southern statues?
Yeah.
For the okay, you just destroyed history, whether you agreed with it or not. It happened. It was there, and you destroyed it. And when you destroy that, you risk repeating it in a different form.
Mm-hmm.
We saw this, like the first thing they did when they invaded, I forget the Middle East country, is they destroyed all the statues and ancient buildings and artwork because it ripped that history and it ripped that culture away.
That's how you're talking about.
Yes. And there was a story about a man who risked his life and died trying to save these artifacts. Thankfully, a few were saved, because when we do things like that, it doesn't matter if you agree with that time in history. When you do that, you risk forgetting.
Or like the Holocaust, we have deniers.
Yes.
Of Holocaust.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they would love to rewrite that. And the way we do that is we take away the art. We take away the architecture. What do we remember? Why do we remember Egypt? We don't remember Egypt because of anything that was written. We don't remember Egypt because of the stories that we told. We remember Egypt because of the glorious architecture and art that we have found through archaeology. And that's how we remember civilizations. Think about our civilization now. If we wiped computers out, say we're Atlantis now. There's a scary thought for you. We are now so dependent on technology to keep our history and to keep our memories. And if it got wiped out today, what would we have left that generations after us could see and know us? Would be the architecture and the physical artwork that we left behind. Things like Mount Rushmore, the Hoover Dam. These things will be left standing thousands of years after we're gone. And this is what will be seen. And this is what they will observe of us as a civilization. So we have to be mindful when we destroy things. We have to be very mindful of that. And I believe Atlantis, well, maybe not Atlantis, but in Hindu literature, they talk about a great war that destroyed cities. And actually, one of their books starts at the beginning of what we would consider Armageddon. So historically, you have this story that starts where we think everything ends, but that was the beginning for that history. And what's survived? Beautiful cities, beautiful architecture, beautiful temples, these artworks that show us that there was something going on, some kind of cosmic war going on. Do we have any historical proof? No,
Yeah,
not
a little bit you do in the paintings
yeah,
and things.
yeah,
They
not
released in Egypt and the Hindi temples and things like that.
but not concrete proof. That's all
No,
we
not
have
concrete.
left. That's all we have left. And just think if some idiot with some fanatical belief who thought that that was wrong went in there and destroyed it, we would not even have that. Um, so, again, legend, myth, stories. Stories is all we have left of Atlantis. Stories that were probably told from one family to the next family to the next family till Plato picked it up and wrote it down. Um, Knowledge that's, yeah,
But
that's all we have.
even his was set third or fourth hand.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Um, so, yeah, I know I'm talking a lot, and I should give y'all a chance to ask a question, but this is something that I have found fascinating since I was 7 years old. So, uh, I ask that y'all forgive me. But yeah, if y'all have any questions, ask them. Feel free. I'll stop talking.
I think people are just
Answer.
enthralled by what you're saying, actually. But
Yeah.
we would love questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you have knowledge, because that's another thing about this. Knowledge is so about the subject is so spread out. It's not really been gathered in one place.
So one of the things that I've read is that Atlantis was not just a few islands; it was actually more like a half the world because they
At
raged
least.
out and conquered. And they have pictures of hieroglyphics in Australia, for instance.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely. At least half the world, if
And
not the entire world.
yeah, and in the sea around Cuba, they're excavating all these machinery that
still
ancient
work.
and still work. And I know in the
Yeah.
Grand Canyon, where they have places in there where they have hieroglyphics, not, but they're not. They're almost pre-Egyptian, and they
Yeah.
had machinery in there as well that was confiscated.
Right. Yeah. We have this tendency to ignore what doesn't fit in our scientific paradigms, which science tells us we're not supposed to do. Uh, to be honest with you, the scientific method was not to exclude what doesn't fit in our theories. It was to try to find the truth
That's a
about
man
our
theory, though.
theories.
That's not scientific.
so, so you find these things. I think there was a computer type item found not too long ago, thousands of years old, that they can't understand how it got there. But we've been finding these things since we started coal mining. You
Right.
know,
Like there's a
uh,
hammer that's 9,000 years old,
yeah,
embedded in the rock that's 9,000 years old.
yeah. So we know history is much older. I think Battlestar Galactica got it really well, and they said, we've done this before, and we'll probably do it again.
Well,
We're
I
doomed to
know,
repeat.
I know the Star Wars trilogy, or not trilogy, saga. I know at the time I was with a man who was a really powerful channel, and it was before channels had become corrupted. And he said that it was our history, not the future.
Yeah. Yes.
And then
Absolutely.
and if you look at it, I can't remember which planet. It's not a planet, but a moon on Saturn, I think. If you look at it, it looks just like the Death Star. It has that
Yeah.
big spot just
Absolutely.
right where the Death Star had the big. It's exactly shaped like the Death Star.
Isn't
And
that cool?
Yeah.
isn't it recently coming out that the moon might be not actually supposed to be a
Well,
moon?
yeah, the moon was, and I'm sure you've read this yourself about the moon. It shouldn't actually be there. and it goes against nature.
Really?
And there's a lot of stories, and I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. So I'll admit that up front. But there's a when they bombed the moon not too long ago, it rang.
Yeah.
So moons do not ring.
Well, there's theories about civilizations on the moon too. I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh well, yeah.
yeah,
I watch a lot of information about that actually.
yeah,
And on the
and
dark side of the moon, there are well, almost
yeah.
yeah, almost everywhere you go, almost every moon, every planet, every planetoid has different kinds of civilizations.
We have to understand that life is so uniquely amazing.
Mm.
The okay, maybe I shouldn't go into that. That's my personal spirituality. I apologize. We'll get back on topic.
Well, one thing that's supposed to be not unique but interesting is that, well, there's a lot of theories that we were genetically manipulated to become the species human. But
Yes, they are.
but
And
but
look,
the,
I'm just
but
going.
the general consensus is that every alien out there has the same general form we do.
I'm
You
just going to
know,
throw it out
bigger
there that
than
when I find the aliens that genetically manipulated us, I'm going to have a long talk about them making me short and fat. I just take exception to that. So they could have
yeah,
done a
no,
better
I
job.
agree with that.
So
I think what happened though is they screwed it up a little bit and then they had to flee.
yeah, when you talk about monsters and you talk about chimera, uh, there's historical say myths and legends, but there's also a hard leaning to that being as reality, a possibility.
Like the centaur, for instance.
Right. They made these fierce monsters. When you talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, and they talk about, I know there's a lot of, I don't want to get into it. Do not send me anything on this. All right. I got it already 500 times. Don't need your input. Don't mean to be rude. Just say it. But Sodom and Gomorrah, the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah, were not necessarily that uh, sexual, physically sexual. They may have been genetic manipulation
That makes more sense,
by,
actually.
yeah, by crossing, animal DNA and recreating these monsters.
Well,
That,
that was one of the reasons that they theorized that Atlantis actually went under because they went against nature.
yes,
So
they went against
I
nature.
have to say this when you said short and stout, Jen says, "How about brilliant and funny?"
Oh, thank you. You made me smile. Yeah.
She's also saying how fascinating this topic is,
So so
and
does
Sadie agrees.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is fascinating. There's so many, but the
Is it,
problem was towards the end of Atlantis, they degenerated into moral corruptness.
right.
And so my
Destroyed
mother,
themselves.
they did. My mother
Yeah.
had a nightmare when she was a child, and she painted this nightmare, and it was her running on stones through a lake. The stones were planted out so she could run. She's looking back, and there's this fog coming towards her. So about 10 years ago now, I had not a nightmare, but a vision. And out of that came a really good book story, short story. But that fog actually would, if it caught up to you, would literally eat you alive.
Yeah, yeah. Benjamin Wallace is a writer. He does the Duck and Cover stories, and he alludes to a fog-like weapon in his books
Mm-hmm.
as part of
And writers are channelers. There's no two ways
right.
about
And his, if you ever get a chance, if you like urban fantasy or end of the world stuff, his is very very enjoyable. And but he does allude to a fog-like weapon that, if you got caught in,
it.
it was just
There
death.
was no getting out of it.
Right.
I actually do remember that one.
Yeah.
And to this day.
When I was young, I had a dream where I was in an end of the world situation, but I wasn't young. I was very old. And I was like in a shopping area with a lot of people. And the alarms went off, and I knew that, this massive war had begun. And there was a man who grabbed me by the arm, and he's more like dragging me to a safe area underground, and he opens it up, and I'm like, it's not for me, because I was old. It was for younger people, and I was trying to like let these younger people go down, and he literally throws me into the hull and says, "But we need you," and slams the thing down for this, I guess.
Because of your knowledge.
Yeah. And I was very distraught in the dream, and I woke up. I didn't like that dream. Now, I don't know if that's an Atlantean dream or if it's just an end of the world dream from my imagination, because I have a great imagination. But
where does imagination come from? One of the things I've learned with the psychic or spirituality is if you imagine it, then someplace or other it is real.
Yeah, that's like comic books, comic book heroes. I think I was talking to Jen Taylor about this. Anyway, we made these superhumans in comic books, and now look at what people can do. You got these kids parkouring, and you got all these obstacle racers, and they're doing these physically almost impossible things. Do we create reality with our fantasy, or do we create fantasy from reality? When I was a kid, these things didn't exist. We didn't have.
It's like defying gravity.
Yeah, we didn't have people who could do that. They broke their necks. They died. Okay, we eliminated them with Darwinism, I guess.
And so now we have Spider-Man who does parkour.
Right. And amazing feats, and these young children who are coming out and playing music and dancing. And we get a lot of, I got way off topic, but we get a lot of crap about millennials. But millennials are some of the smartest, most brilliant, quick-minded generation I know of.
Batman.
Absolutely.
It's just that
But yeah, so do we create reality? I think to some degree we do. We open the door to these possibilities.
Well, it's like racing, right? Remember the 1 minute mile? It broke, and everybody was astounded.
Right.
And how many 1 minute miles of records have been broken? And they're down to what? I don't exactly know how fast people can go now.
It's like the quadruple in figure skating. One person did it. Now it's required.
Yeah.
We can do so much more.
It's the power of our mind is amazing.
Right.
If we just believe in ourselves, we could literally fly.
We really could. And what's really interesting is you go back to lost civilizations and the idea of history before us, you know, and we wiped that history out. We didn't learn. Where did they make that mistake? Where did they reach that apex and then said, hey, screw it, let's just destroy everything? You know,
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that would be a really good one to know,
yeah,
actually.
it,
And for instance, the Mayans. Is it Mayans?
yeah,
The vanished civilization. So they don't know where or how. But one of the theories is that they created a climate that was impossible to live in. And
yeah.
that's what happened. They just vanished because of that.
And
And we're
and
creating
we're working on
the
that
same
now.
situation.
Yeah, we're working on that now. I mean,
Yeah.
plastic is our biggest enemy right now. Um,
Well,
People,
our
if you're
town
listening,
is eliminating plastic from plastic bags.
yeah, right? I
And
mean,
that's how much
recycle. Yeah. The greatest thing, if you want to help civilization thrive and succeed and go past that apex of destruction, the greatest thing we can do right now, don't litter. It's so easy. It's just one thing you can do. Just don't litter.
we don't buy plastic anymore, for
Yeah.
instance.
Or if you do, recycle it. Don't just throw it in the ground. Don't just throw it out for trash. That's a reusable, renewable product. I mean, that's a product that we can reuse over and over and over again and never lose quality and never have to remake. If we recycled all the plastic that we have now, we have all the plastic that we need for a lifetime.
And also you can make it out of something that in
Yeah,
itself is recyclable, like hemp rather than wood. I mean, wood
it's
takes
just
1,000 years. Hemp takes 4 months.
this is what I'm saying. Don't just throw away your drinking bottles and your Coke cans. Don't just throw them on the ground. Um, stop the process of making more and recycle. That will do so much for our environment, for our greenhouse gases. I you know because we do not have to manufacture new plastic. We don't have to throw these chemicals into the air. We just use what we got. We
They
reprocess.
made a highway out of
Mhm.
plastic, and it
Yeah,
works better than asphalt.
yeah, absolutely. Gold is a thing. Recycle your computers, recycle your cell phones. Don't just throw them away. Don't. Microwaves are a big issue for me. Microwaves are considered common trash, and you can throw them away. There's no enforced containment procedures like we have with air. How did we get on this subject? I'm sorry. Like we have with
It's
air
actually only North
conditioners.
America that
Yeah,
is legally allowed to have nukers.
yeah. It's just just
No other
right.
country uses them.
It,
So
it's just yeah. It's just one of those things that we can do. You don't have to go out and be an environmental warrior. You don't have to, you know, do all these great things. You don't have to you know, like me. I would love to go out to the beach and pick up trash. I'm just lazy and there's just no way. I'm old people. I'm not doing it. But one of the things that I can do is properly dispose of my trash. Everyone can do that. It doesn't take. Don't throw it. Don't throw it out your car window because if I see you, I'm going to be stopping. So
yeah.
don't do it.
Like things that are like paper straws rather than
Yeah,
plastic straws, or something that can be made edible by the turtles rather than strangle
yes,
them and things like that. There's a lot of
yeah,
things that can be done nowadays.
and
But
then we talk about Atlantis. They had to have reached a point in technology where these war issues that they had, And they may
I
have
think
brought,
the issues were slightly different
yeah.
than the pollution.
I don't think so. I think it was a form of pollution. I think it
Okay,
was,
but
yeah,
not the kind of pollution we've got.
no, not the kind
It,
we've got.
they had a different. It was a different pollution. It was,
Yeah, it was cataclysmic.
yeah. Well, a few of them were, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about um, you're tapping into a magnified energy source. Yay, us! But sometimes they explode.
Well, what it did
You
there
know?
was it would vibrate in such a way that it would go down, sort of like the fracking. Now
Yes,
you go down and shake
absolutely.
the innards of the earth.
And
The
again, we repeat history. Yeah,
but it's slightly different. Now it's
yeah,
fracking, but back then it was working with the crystals that were too powerful for what we needed. But we
yeah,
did. We powered airplanes. Or they weren't exactly the same shape and
yeah,
things like that, but we powered things that flew. We uh, we um, actually moved our bodies from one place to another through crystals, and
yeah. You talk
we
about
built things like
teleportation.
pyramids
Yeah,
with sound crystals. You know.
right. And we talk, yeah, and you talk about moving things with. We can do that now
Hmm.
on a small scale. We're
Yeah.
able to do that. It's proven that that could be done. And if you did it on a large scale, imagine Tesla. He took down a building with just vibration. What if you messed up and you're living with that vibration all the time? We already know that bees do not like cell phones. If you don't want bees in your garden, put a cell phone in the garden. They will avoid it. Um, so yeah, did they create? That's a good theory. Did they create this vibrational pollution that eventually destroyed them? It's a possibility. And again, we'll never know.
And at the well, yeah, not truly no, but at the end there were many little city states,
Hmm.
and they were run by individual who some of them had gone mad
Yeah.
with the
Well,
power, with power.
yeah.
Because there
Well,
was, well, anyhow, that's another story.
yeah. But we know in the end of any destruction of war and any chaos, and you saw it in New Orleans after Katrina, you saw it, you see it in war torn areas, that these little feudal systems do develop.
Mhm.
And you do have some of these guys that gain power that are just fucking crazy.
Yeah, well,
Um,
the Lord of the Flies, for instance, is a
right,
really good example of how fast we devolve if we
right.
choose.
Oh, yeah, and it's a proven fact if you're ever in one of these situations, children let go of civilization much faster than we do. They become much more dangerous than adults in a chaotic situation because they do not have the history of being civilized. Civilization is what protects us from our animalistic brutality. And so it's proven fact children will kill you. I know we love them and they're cute and they're adorable, but in that situation where everybody's starving to death, they will kill you faster than an adult. So that's
Well,
I hate to say that.
it's part of the myelization of the brain, right?
Right.
Until they're like 23, I think it's not complete. And
Yeah.
and you look at these kids that go out and murder their parents.
Mhm.
If they'd waited 10 years, they wouldn't have done it.
What do you think? What do you think? Let's say Atlantis. Let's theorize. Let's imagine that they created this situation where they destroyed themselves, either through war, pollution, misused science,
There's
which
a
is a good
lot of
theory.
that, actually.
Yeah, and
A lot of temples of science, but like here, they were separate sciences.
so say and there's Earth cataclysms going on, and communication is breaking down, civilized law is breaking down. You're having small segments that survive, and they're establishing their own law. And you have renegade patches of humanity with, like we said, younger children going feral and going wild. And so you start to see, and then we lose knowledge. And then we go into fanaticism. Yeah.
If the kids are in power, they don't have, as you said, they don't have the education.
Right. That's right. And so we're losing a whole world of knowledge. And then you have these people who want to establish control and become the new dictator, tyrant. And to do that, they have to destroy, all remnants of the civilization before them. So again, we're losing more knowledge. And then the world just devolves. And along comes the Ice Age, and we have to reestablish civilization. We have to rebuild. We have to regain knowledge. We have to, again, build on education. And you can see this happening over and over and over again.
And too, some of the people would have thrown away the things that actually did work, because they were also the articles of destruction.
Right, exactly. And so, we're at risk today. So even if you don't believe Atlantis as a historical fact, which we don't have enough evidence yet as of, but
not scientific evidence.
Yeah.
But spirituality's always been ahead of science anyhow.
Absolutely. But look at it as a cautionary for us today. Let us not destroy our history. Let us learn from it. Let us evolve. Let us take away the things that destroy us and bring in the science and technologies that save us. Let us evolve as people.
One of the things that another theory is that Lemuria was fairly highly evolved, and they there was a cataclysm there as well, but because they dispersed or evolved, became enlightened and evolved, that it left a huge gap in the energetic balance of the world, and that caused the Atlanteans, who were more scientific, to overbalance towards pure science. And that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Don't get out of balance, basically.
Yeah, don't. It's my belief, and this is biblical, by the way, because that's my core value. We have every potential to create heaven. That was given to us. We have every potential to overcome any problem that we face. If we can evolve to a point where we don't hate each other and want to kill each other, and are so narrow-minded that we refuse to listen to each other, and that we continue being egomaniacs and only involved in what we get as gratification now. If we can overcome that, we have the potential to solve every problem.
Yeah.
Every problem you face. Pollution.
And the things that people put out as divisive, really irrational.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
So, but yeah, I think that's a big message of Atlantis too. They had so much potential to gain so much. They could have just reached out and had the universe. We could be like mining asteroids right now and already colonized planets. They were there and gone. We're there. We have so much potential. We can go to Mars. We can reach beyond and become so much more if we don't mess up and kill ourselves.
And I think the potential is every day getting strong. Every day that we actually survive, I think the
Yes.
potential is getting stronger and stronger that it will happen. So
Yeah.
one of the things that you'll have noticed is, well, today here in my area, it was 20 degrees, but because the sun itself is hotter, and it used to be when we were younger, it was yellow. Now it's white, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's become hotter. So I
Yeah.
mean, that 20 degrees today was like 25, 30, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It just, there's something, and even though it says the same degrees, it was way hotter than it should have been at 20 degrees. And I forgot what my point is. Wow, pretty good.
Yeah.
But things are evolving. We are changing. Oh, I know. I remember, and that's part of the evolution. That's part of us moving higher up spiritually. And one of the things also, I know it's not just quartz crystals, but maybe it has something to do with the quartz crystal. Is so you said that it had a lot to do with timing and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and many people who are spiritual are really interested in quartz crystals. One of the things about time is that as we become more spiritual, we vibrate higher, time does become shorter. It's all, my theory is that we're vibrating higher and faster, so we are vibrating completely out of time itself.
Yeah.
So
That's a
so
possibility.
so
I have to go to the
quartz
bathroom.
crystals have their point. Pardon?
So I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Actually, we've been on for an hour and 12 minutes. So I guess I'll just talk here for a few minutes. How anybody got questions besides Batman?
I think everybody's just listening.
Yeah. So, it's very exciting. I do have a lot of memories of Atlantis, actually. A few years back, I was dealing with the energy of Atlantis, and but only the end times, not the good times. And one of them was I had a memory of being was sort of a human, but it was a hybrid human, and I had slit eyes like no, yeah, like that, or reptilian, and but I was genetically made to be absolutely gorgeous, had no emotions whatsoever, was extremely intelligent, and they're the people who the people who owned me, so to speak, wanted to sell me to a brothel. A brothel wouldn't take me because I was too reptilian, but I had a really sharp mind, and scientists found me and took me to be sort of a human calculator or a computer or something. And I actually led a fairly decent life, but I had no real emotions. So
Um, John Taylor says time does seem like it's fleeting lately.
yeah, and it is. The faster you vibrate, the shorter the time is. So if you have 5 hours, it's basically 2.5 hours. You've got work you can get done. It's how it just seems to be moving and shifting and changing. Uh, Also, there's a theory that there was a war pre millions of years pre, and it was Mars, and
Sorry.
there was another planet. So there was another planet, Mars, and Mars was like this big compared to this other planet, and that the other planet is now what do you call that? The space dot, not the space, the
Mm,
planet, the
asteroid
asteroid
belt?
belt. was the bigger planet, and there was a war between Mars and this other planet. The other Mars blew up this other planet. In doing so, it basically killed itself.
Just to interject real quick, Sabi Rendell wants to hear one of your Atlantis stories, maybe in another live stream.
Okay, yeah, no, I actually can bring them out and maybe set. They're not happy stories, honest to God. They're all really
kind of
heartbreaking, and even tapping into them, I feel like crying because them.
Did you post a couple in the
Yeah, I didn't post the hardcore ones.
No, that's true.
And there wasn't that much interest, so I just quit. But so what happened was that the people who were in charge of this, and I'm talking about people in the spiritual realm rather than the physical realm, took the souls from this devastation after they had recuperated enough to get to reincarnate again. And this took hundreds of thousands of years to get out of the trauma, and put them into a cycle that was already undergoing. Earth at that time was very non-aggressive, but the people they brought in were very aggressive souls. That's where we started to get war and everything like that, and they didn't integrate very well. And that is part of the reason. That's a theory, a spiritual theory, not a scientific theory. It's part of the reasons we now have so much war and things, because this one group of people who came in did not integrate and are warlike, and so so there's a lot of older souls or master souls have come in at this time, because by interrupting the cycle of the earth and changing it from a very pastoral, loving community, it turned it into a warlike country, earth. They have karma to work off, and so they came in to help break that karma. That's one of the theories. I don't know if you're interested in that or not, but I just thought it sort of resonated with me, so I remembered it. If it doesn't resonate with me, I don't remember them. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Welcome back.
Thank you for wearing pants.
Yeah, I thought about that when I walked out. I was like, oh God, they gotta wear pants. So yeah, usually I'm not in pants. I'm in pajamas or other things. And yeah, I live with my dogs, people. No judgments. So but yeah, no, I had to run fast. My bad for drinking cranberry and raspberry juice. I apologize. I won't do that the next time I do it.
Kidneys.
Yeah. I was like, oh, diuretics.
Yeah.
So embarrassing.
How's surviving?
Huh?
How's Marshall surviving?
Oh, he ran with me. He was like, we're running to the bathroom and we're running back. That's very exciting. Yeah, I try to keep him close now. Umbra was such a tragedy. And so Marshall is paying for Umbra's tragedy. Sadly, he is a very overprotected dog. He doesn't get to be out of my sight. So, ever. So, yeah. Lesson learned. I will not trust that people can be responsible with my dog ever again. It will only be me. So, yeah, he's a spoiled, rotten, overprotective brat.
That's okay. So did you have any other ideas about Atlantis that we were missing?
Only be careful about what you believe. there's a lot of people that will tap into the Atlantis hype, sadly, and they'll be selling you um, spiritualities based on theories that are A, not true, and B, just meant to line their pockets. I've seen that happen. So be aware of that. Not everybody, yeah.
One of the things about channels that's happened in the last few years is that the negative energies figured out how to tap into the channel. So they will start out very positive and slowly change and shift it. So follow your instincts, follow your heart when you hear any channel anymore. That includes me and Elizabeth. That doesn't resonate. Don't use us.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have sort of. There's a few channels I still trust, but mostly I won't go near a channel anymore.
Yeah, be careful of that. If you're interested in whether or not you have an Atlantean past life, the very first thing that you can do is look at your hand. You can tell if you're an old soul or a young soul by how many lines are on your hand. So if your hand is extremely wrinkled, that's one way to tell that you may have one of these really old past lives. And it may, if you're interested, get a past life reading on that.
Elizabeth is good for that.
Yeah. This is not concrete, by the way. So, past lives are very interesting. You may not have been human during that time.
Well, more than likely you're not, because we never begin and we never end.
Yes.
So this is just a pinprick of time for us. And the chances are that we have been anything but human in other lifetimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jen Taylor is asking, and maybe this could be a possible next chit chat topic. How does one know if they were a channel?
Everybody's a channel at some level.
I guess the question would be, do you really want to be a channel?
Not anymore.
It's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy. And
I mean, it can be fun sometimes.
Well, my daughter's a channel. She's a natural channel. And she'd go into it and start talking in a
Romanian voice accent.
Yeah.
But she didn't go out of her way to do it.
No.
Yeah. I'm particularly partial to having control of my own mind and body.
Yeah, and people who do the channeling and lose, they're not conscious channels, they age and become old really fast. So it's going to get loud in here.
Yeah, we have a dog coming in.
Channeling used to be in the 70s and 80s. Channeling used to be a legit thing. But I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't even think about learning how to channel or teaching it. I personally have no interest in helping another person to become a channel.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're right, you are a channel, because like Stephen King writes some horrific stuff, but he channels from a very heavy level, dimensional energy level, and he was an alcoholic and things like that.
Yeah, and you want to be careful what you open your door to and into your life. You have a right to say no to things. I tell my students that all the time. There's rules. I'm very heavy with the rules, and if you're a student of mine, you know that we do not follow. We do not go where we do not want to go. We don't listen to the whispering voice. We do not open doors, and there's reasons. So, and channeling is just one of those things that I rank with those rules? Do you, you have to have really strong protections, and you have to really be able to take care of yourself if you're going to do that.
Yeah, no, really, channeling it's not something. There's a few channels that I still listen to occasionally,
Yeah.
but generally, I wouldn't trust them.
To ride along with spirit boards is another thing I caution against. There's a lot of stuff about spirit boards out there. I guess I got down here, we call them Ouija boards.
We call them Ouija boards up here too.
Yeah. Spirit boards, people, that's like opening a door. Well, that's like going out onto the interstate or the highway in rush hour traffic and saying, come in. You don't know who's going to drive in. So that's another caution. I don't say not use them if you're well trained and you know what you're doing and you know how to protect yourself.
And you know what feels right.
And because when in doubt, get out.
Yeah.
I'm never going to tell you not to do it. I'm just going to tell you to be super, super cautious. It's not a game. And that's a form of channeling as well, using spirit boards. So
everything basically can be let down to that, even pendulums to a certain extent.
To a certain extent. They're I think a little more controlled.
Yeah, because it should be your muscles coming from your subconscious.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not.
And you do get these people that say they channel Atlantis. Who was it I was talking to about a different situation with channel? Boy, we got on this topic really fast. The different situation with channeling, they alleged, Crowley alleged that he channeled the book of Thoth, or Thoth, however you pronounce that, the book of magic. So you have to be careful with people who say that, things like that, because they use that to manipulate very vulnerable people, very needy people. And realistically, good people can get trapped in somebody that kind of uses this as sort of a way to control and manipulate. You know what I mean? It's just something. Be careful of your source.
Well, look at that guy in Texas, 30 years ago now?
Yeah.
Who had all his followers drink poison?
Yeah.
That's a good example of being careful.
Come drink my Kool-Aid, ladies. I have great Kool-Aid. You'll love it.
We have a comment from Heather Skinner. She goes, I love you, ladies. And then adds, the one that's talking reminds me of my closest friend I had.
That would be Elizabeth.
Oh, that's sweet. But yeah, no.
Yeah, that's Elizabeth. You're talking about Heather.
Her name should be up on the page.
It's in the title. Nikki Reynolds comments, my grandma gave me a board and my friend and I were playing it. My brother told me last year that her and I were screaming and crying, trying to get out of the room, and we couldn't open the door. So he tried and he couldn't open the door from the outside. So he climbed through the window and he was able to get us out. I'm assuming with the spirit board, Ouija board.
Yeah, that is actually a common report. What happens is, especially as young children, we don't realize that by poking a spirit that's been resting, and asleep, we can actually piss it off. It's just like when you're like asleep at 2 a.m. and somebody comes in and just rolls you out of bed and starts screaming at you. And you're like, well, where the hell am I? What's going on? You're not going to take favorably to that situation. So a lot of times, especially young people, will be in a place where entity or a spirit or something has been resting quite peacefully and not been disturbed for ages, and will piss it off. And so it is a common occurrence that they get this sort of negative um, happening with the spirit board. That's why it's so important to be so careful. Not everything out there is evil, but that doesn't mean it's good for you.
There's a lot of neutral out there that just
Yeah,
doesn't
that can really
care.
hurt you. Yeah. It doesn't have the same concept of good and bad that you have. It's not human.
Do you remember that entity that was that you helped me get to blah, blah, that entity that was a fey creature that you helped me get rid of from these people?
Yes.
I can't remember
Yes.
its name.
Yeah. That was a mischievous little spirit. He was having
Yeah,
fun. It
he,
wasn't good for the family.
yeah.
Um,
It was neutral. It
yeah.
wasn't bad, but
Yeah.
it
It wasn't.
created havoc.
Are you talking about the
Yeah.
gremlin?
I
Yeah.
can't remember what it was called.
Yeah. It wasn't the gremlin. The gremlin is that's you're going to see lost items and breaking items if you have a gremlin around. But this was a little elfling spirit. It was a nature spirit, almost like an elemental.
Yeah,
Uh, and it was just having fun.
yeah.
You know,
But it was scared the
yeah,
bejeebers out of that
yeah,
family.
scary. That, yeah. Um,
And
oh, it
really,
was,
when I talked to it, it was fine.
yeah. No
But
intention of harm does not mean that results in physical good for you as a human being.
no,
Never make the
absolutely,
mistake.
the people were scared, and
Right.
not good things were happening around, and
Um,
but the energy was not negative.
So Jen Taylor, real quick, going back, she clarified that her question was, how do we know if we have a channeling gift or not?
Oh, okay, well,
And so maybe we can revisit this topic in the
yeah,
next chit chat.
we could probably do that, but yeah, basically anybody can channel. Not everybody's a good channel, but anybody can.
Heather Skinner says, I've looked into Hedge Witch ever since our last conversation, and scrying, you ladies are awesome. I have the book, The Good Fairies and the Bad Fairies, and it talks so much about these creatures.
yeah, that's a good book. That's a good one. So I like that book.
We watched the show The Good Witch. Does that count?
Yeah, the thing again with the word witch that always bothers me. But a good earth. Um, I guess we'll just go with it. A good hedge witch. You know, they're beautiful people. I mean, you always want to be in their kitchen or in their garden. you know, they they just have this natural ability to heal and just make you feel very comfortable. Um, I, I can always like the feel of a person that's really strong in earth.
Magic.
Yes, really do. Um,
And mostly those people are real. They've spent many lifetimes on Earth. They're not just people
yeah.
who come in from another planet to visit for a couple of lifetimes.
We're going to have to do a chit chat on this word witch and why it bothers me so much one time.
Maybe we could find another word for it, but I mean that's the word that.
Yeah,
Not
it's
witch, not in the witch saying, but people always say, my home is very comforting. That comment comes from Heather Skinner again.
I can see that, honestly. I think that you're heading in the right direction by looking into this, uh, especially with herbs and uh, cooking. There's a
So,
lot of magic in cooking. There's a lot of healing and essential oils and growing plants. And I really just encourage you just to head down that way
chicken soup.
with exuberance because you got it going on. You got all the. I think that would be a good path for you to follow.
Yeah, and just follow your gifts, basically.
Yes, yes.
Well, for instance, Jen is kind of asking about channeling, but her gift is listening. At least one of her gifts is listening.
Yeah.
And just being present.
I have an idea of where Jen is heading in her life. I don't think it's not a very common gift, and it's not an easy one. So I wouldn't. It's not one that I would care for.
No, not given what you do, who you are.
Yeah. No. Oh no, that'd be terrible. That would be a terrible combination.
True. But there's certain people, like Janet Preston would be really good at it. Jen Taylor.
Yes, absolutely.
Speaking of Jen Taylor, she says thanks for your compliment about her gifts.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we've been on for an hour and 36 odd minutes.
Yeah,
I don't
Marshall
know about you, but I'm fatigued.
Man, I already almost peed in my pants. I'm just saying. So,
real quick before we say goodbye, we have 2 more comments. Heather Skinner says, "Get your YouTube rolling, and you'll take off like a rocket."
I'm trying.
Jen Taylor says, "Glad to have you both to guide me." Glad to have you both to guide me. And Chantel says, "Heather, you might enjoy the book Empowering Your Life with Natural Magic by Ciara Knight."
it's another good one.
Sarona?
Probably it sounds like the song, so it's probably Sarona.
Hey, Sharona.
So no, actually, I agree completely. We're trying to figure out a way to get my nerd daughter to uplift our conversations to
Upload conversation, the Facebook lives to YouTube.
and then we've got a few that would go over really good.
I know how to do it. It's just
Takes
getting
time.
the intro.
Oh yeah, well we might have to just do without the intro.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because I say wisdom seekers at the beginning.
You have a great night too, Heather. If y'all have any, because I know people watch this afterwards, which just surprises me because they're so long. But if y'all have any
Elizabeth
topics, yeah, I know, horrible. Yeah, but if y'all have,
you know what the last one we did with Erin, she was texting out saying, "Help me get off the."
Yeah, if y'all have any topics y'all want covered, I love research. If it's something I don't know, I will look it up for you. If y'all have any questions or comments, feel free to send them my way or send them to Elise. She'll get them to me. And also,
Elizabeth,
Elijah.
You weren't allowed to call me that, and one other.
So, and also, if you're ever interested, because that's how I make my dog food, schedule a reading with me.
She's really good.
I'm really good, and also
honest. You have to expect honest, though. If you don't want honest, go find somebody else.
Yeah, I'm always worried about that because sometimes I'm really honest. Also, your spirit animals. That's another fun thing that we do.
And they're actually very helpful.
Yeah. I love the spirit animals.
Yeah, and if you really want it fancy for a gift, we can get my daughter to do some drawings for them and make it really pretty.
And I really enjoy talking to y'all. I really do. Um, and I hope to see y'all again really soon.
Yep, me
So
too.
hit me up with any topic you want. I love a good conversation.
Yes,
So
we noticed.
so
And hopefully, you guys enjoy our sense of humor. We're good friends, and we kind of poke at each other a little bit just because we can.
I'm gonna get poor Marshall out. He's been so patient. Like I said, I don't let him out of my sight. So
I
him
would,
being locked in this room has been,
yeah, I kind of thought that might be the case.
yeah.
Okay,
So he's ready to stretch his legs. I love you guys. Bye.
okay, and I'm going to just, you can leave, but I'm going to just tell everybody.
What's coming up
I
for the rest of the week?
think I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe Staby is due for this weekend. And after next week, we'll have Aaron on Connect with Aaron. And on the 11th, Kristen is going to talk. Talk about well, basically how to build your new business. And on the 12th, we have Betty Joanne, who does our Akashic records, and she's going to talk to us about our Akashic records and readings. She's a good speaker, easy to follow, be really worth your while. So good luck, and thank you very much. And I'm going to say namaste, namasko, and have a good evening, everybody.
Bye, everyone.